Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Liverpool Connection podcast. This is episode 6 of Childhood Heroes. Last week, I spoke to Darren and we spoke about Kevin Keegan. And this week, absolutely delighted to be speaking to Keith. And we're going to be speaking about probably the greatest ever footballer that's ever played for the club. Keith, I know you probably agree with that. Firstly, mate, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. You can see the smile on my face already. I've been dying to talk about him. And you got to call him what he is. He's the king. You know, he's just like... I sort of sit here and go, you know, when people go, who's the best player ever? I go, I can't even have the conversation anymore because it's just Kenny.
Yeah.
It's got to be. Do you know what I mean? It's just like there's no one. Obviously, you know, from my age, there was no one before him, with the exception of Kevin Keegan. But after him, there's no one who I can hold up to. I've got to go. There's Kenny, and then you go, and then these players were brilliant as well. I love all these players, but I can't get past saying Kenny's the best ever, you know what I mean? I just love it. And I hate it when you have these things on Twitter, you go, who's the best player ever? And all of a sudden you go, someone goes, Suarez or Torres, and you go, hold on, and you're not even remembering Kenny, and goes, these lads weren't even alive. They never got to see him play. I feel like I'm really, really fortunate to be able to see more than grainy YouTube videos or something like that of him, because he's just amazing.
I can see it already, mate, just how excited you are. And
we'll
go back to... I'm actually going to go back even sort of before Kenny. And because obviously last week we spoke to Darren, like I said, at the start, about Keegan. Can you sort of remember... now, for obviously for our younger supporters or anyone who's new, Kevin Keegan leaving at that time, would you say is probably about some like Salah leaving right now?
Yeah, it's like... That's what it's like. He was your talisman. He was your star man. He was your hero probably ever since, you know, 71, 72, you know. It was like he was like the one when he made stuff happen. He got you off your feet. He worked hard. He excited you. He was the king of the cop. That, you know, like that's the way people looked at him. Yeah. And for me, it is very much like Salah going, he's the man who excites you, go like that. So then you replace him with someone who you go, well, I've heard of him, but we didn't have football 24/7. So you heard of Kenny Dalglish, but you didn't quite know what he was. You'd seen him play for Scotland against England or in World Cups and things like that. So you sort of, if you follow football, you sort of knew him, but it wasn't, you didn't have this massive information. There was no YouTube compilation to look at him. It was like, well, so who's this fella Dalglish then? And he paid it was a record fee at the time for him. So yeah, it's like replacing Mo Salah. You know, if you wanted to replace Mo Salah now, you go Mbappe or something like that. You know, because obviously I've seen MSN today and Mbappe's coming to Liverpool according to them, but he might not be. You know, and all that sort of stuff. But you go, yeah, you're replacing them, but we'd have to replace a superstar with a world superstar. Whereas we were going, we're replacing them, but actually it was like a real signing of someone had done the homework and actually realised how good Kenny could be in England, because he was performing in Scotland, which it was probably a stronger league than maybe is today, but it still wasn't a strong league. You know, for someone to do that research to find Kenny to replace Keegan, it was a bit of a masterstroke, really.
Yeah. So can you remember sort of the first time seeing him and just being like, I mean, what age sort of would you have been of sort of seeing him for that first time then? Well, remember?
The thing I remember about Kenny the first time was not seeing him. It was hearing about him. I was on Crosby Beach. For anyone who doesn't know Crosby Beach, it's to the north of Liverpool. And it's where the Iron Men are now. There's the Gormley statues. And we were there, and it was a summer holiday, and we were on the beach, and on the radio, come on Radio City, the local radio station, saying Liverpool have signed Kenny Dalglish to replace Kevin Keegan, and he's replacing Kevin Keegan, who's just won the European Cup with Liverpool. And we're going, who? Dalglish? Oh, that come left field. You know, there wasn't a lot of talk about it, or I don't know if there's any talk about it, because I was only 12, so I didn't really know much. And, you know, it wasn't, as I say, there weren't whispers or anything like that. But, okay, that's it. And then go, who's this Dalglish fan? It's only ever he plays for Scotland, and it's like that. So they've got an element of excitement, but a real trepidation going, can he replace Kevin Keegan? Can he fill his boots? And he made his debut in the Charity Shield. And I remember seeing the highlights of the charity scene and went, oh, it looked all right. I think they played United. I'm not sure. I think it might even drew 0-0 and went to pens or whatever. But you went, oh, he looks all right. But it was the Charity Shield was a pre-season. But then he scored against Middlesbrough, I think it was, on his debut. And then he scored again. And all of a sudden, everyone went, whoa. And he had like this start where he scored loads of goals. But it was more about the rest of the thing. You knew he had class. He fitted and slotted straight in. There was no period where he had to adjust. You know, like Nunes this year, where he's had to adjust. It takes time. He slotted in. And from this team that won the European Cup, you go, oh my God, he's just made us better. He's better than Kevin Keegan. And in the nicest possible way, Kevin Keegan was forgotten about quite quickly because you replaced him with the new legend. And Kevin had left under a bit of a cloud because he was going to Germany, and he basically said, don't love you anymore. I'm going somewhere else and going for a challenge. You go, well, you don't do that to Liverpool. And there was a real arshiness within the fan base in certain elements about, half the fan base were going, oh, he's a legend. Look at what he did for us. Let him go and all this sort of stuff. And he was going to get mega money. It was like a mega deal for the lad, and he'd done what he needed to do for Liverpool, won everything with Liverpool. So the other half are going, well, fair play. But then the other half going, I'll never forgive him. He's not welcome here. You hear it now, don't you? Like Steve McManaman went the same, I hate McManaman. He left us in the late. Michael Owen. Anyone goes to new pastures, that's the way we treat them. It's because they don't love us anymore. That's the way we saw it. So Kenny slotted straight in because actually we needed a new love. We found a new love, and he was brilliant. He was boss. When he scores that goal, or any goal, the sheer excitement on his face made Dalglish what he is. And from his first goal with Liverpool to his last goal at Liverpool, you can see him running away with his arms up. It was that natural
celebration.
Yeah, his celebration was amazing. And he was just amazing. And off the pitch, you never had to bother with him. He was a good family man. He represented us, and he was magic. And obviously he then goes and wins the European Cup as well with that like delicate little chip against Bruges. He's a legend forever in just one season. Do you know what I mean?
It's crazy, isn't it? Because just as you were speaking there, I'm thinking, like Liverpool have just nearly won the treble in 77. Obviously got beat in the cup final against Man United. But the fact that he's come in, I don't really want to say this, but it's like sort of City now, isn't it? Sort of losing Haaland and then bringing in like another player. It is insane to think what pressure he probably was actually under. Coming in and to win the European Cup in 78. Did we win the league in 78 as well?
No. I don't think we did.
To win the European Cup back to back, is just insane, isn't it? Like you're saying, that first season.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with back to Kevin Keegan was that night in Rome when they won the European Cup. He left one of his best ever performances. He run Bertie Vogts into the ground. He run the Germans absolutely into the ground, and he went out on a massive high, and he won the European Cup for him. So people, whether they wanted him to leave or felt upset him leaving, that he left everything on the pitch in Rome that night, and Dalglish had to follow that performance. So, and consistently, Kevin Keegan was excellent for Liverpool. So what you're looking for, and it made the number 7 iconic, but Dalglish took it to a new level. And anyone who's followed him ever since wearing the number 7 shirt has got balls of steel, haven't he?
Massively. Well, Luis Diaz has just took over now, hasn't he? So best of luck.
No, I've just seen that. Yeah, that's amazing.
So if we move a little bit forward, then during that period, obviously it's incredible, such an incredible, successful period for us. Is there any sort of standout before we sort of get to him actually taking over and whatnot? Is there any sort of standout moments so you can really remember when you're a kid? Any goals or celebrations or whatever?
There's loads of standout moments, because for me, like I got my first season ticket in 77. So my first season ticket was his. was first year. Do you know what I mean? That was his first year. So I got to see him every home game. I got to see him be what he was like, do you know what I mean? And then I didn't do any aways until about probably 81 was when I started going away. You know, I'd be like 16 and go on a football special. And so obviously he's in his pomp then as well. Like, but there was goals. You used to see Match of the Day, which was the highlights program on a Saturday night in England. His goals would light up the screen. I remember there's one at Derby where he has this big arse on him. He has a big bottom, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? And he just shields the ball, and then all of a sudden he just curls it round the corner into the top corner. And he'd done it there, and he'd done it at Ipswich, and he'd done it at Arsenal, and he would make room with his backside and then score from it anywhere. And, you know, he was an excellent goal scorer. But one of the things that stands out for me was when Rush come in the team, he created the Ian Rush that we had. Like Kenny's speed of thought up the top in his head made Ian Rush the player he was. The fact that Rush knew where to be, he knew that Dalglish would find him. And there's a goal, and it was on a Friday night. It was when he started televising games, and he played Watford at Anfield. And there's a slide rule pass he does, and you'll really see a better pass. Everyone always goes, oh, you know, like Jan Molby, which you've had on, was brilliant. And then Xabi Alonso, you know, he could find a man. There's this ball, and basically just Rush runs onto it and puts his foot in it, goes in the corner, and Watford were like young pretenders, and I think they beat them 3-0 that night. But the ball from Dalglish, and you see all these teams come to Anfield, and he just couldn't cope with them. He was brilliant. And then as his career went on, obviously as his legs started to go, his head got better and better and better. You know, and you just go, anyone who's playing with him, he must have been the greatest joy in the world to play with, because there was times when he was greedy and he should have passed, but most times he would pick the right pass out. He was like one of the cleverest footballers you've ever seen. And he got the Ballon d'Or Silver Award. So I think that's second in the Ballon d'Or, isn't it? But he got FA Player of the Year. He got the Writers Player of the Year, I think twice or three times. You know, he was really well respected, and he was feared across Europe. You know, when teams would come against Liverpool in Europe, they would kick Kenny to bits. He was the danger man of all of it. You know, he was your star man, and he must be black and blue every time he come off a football pitch, because he got such a kicking, and sometimes he'd respond a little bit of Glaswegian in them, but you know, he would just go, yeah, watch what I'm going to do to you now for kicking me.
I reckon his mate probably helped him out a few times. Graham Souness, I reckon he went over in
yeah. His enforcer, he allowed him to play. I think that was one of the reasons he probably got Souness to go, okay, well, you know, we need a bit of steel in the team. Dalglish can meet it out, to tell you. You know, Dalglish was no shrink and violate. He didn't need anyone fighting his battles for him, but Souness would step in and fight it anyway, you know. So
yeah. Is there anyone that you could, I mean, I've been asking everyone this over all the episodes that we've done. Is there anyone that you could compare him to in the game now? Doesn't obviously not from anyone at all.
I won't compare anyone to Dalglish because it's just incomparable.
Yeah.
But if
anyone similar mold, then?
I tell you what, let's say it's an unfair comparison, really, because they're totally different players. But Messi is close, because try getting the ball off Messi was the same as trying to get the ball off Dalglish. And, you know, he'd wriggle out of spaces that you're not allowed to wriggle out of. And Messi does that. And Dalglish would also, so I wouldn't mind betting that Messi's based himself on Dalglish. It would be like a real understandable thing to do, you know, because like Dalglish would saunter in games and you wouldn't think he'd do anything, and all of a sudden just a moment of magic, and you know, you'd be 1-0 up or they'd be 1-0 down. You go, how did that happen? Where's Dalglish play? And I had an uncle who used to wind me dad up, and he'd sit in the corner of a pub and go, and he'd wink at me, take a drink out of his pint, and then go, oh, Dalglish was rubbish today, wasn't he? And the pub would go mental, do you know what I mean? Then he'd wink at me back and he'd go like that, because Dalglish wasn't allowed to be rubbish. He was the king of the cop. He was their darling, and he brought so much success, because you've got to remember, Liverpool were successful when he joined, but he took them to a whole new level, you know, because I think, you know, before he joined, obviously we won the European Cup and we won leagues and stuff like that. But then when he was a player, I had to write this down because I had to go up. He won 6 leagues, an FA Cup, 4 League Cups. We owned it at that time. 5 Charity Shields, 3 European Cups, and a European Super Cup. And you just go, well, you know, he had 355 games for Liverpool and he scored 118 goals. That's some record. And like Liverpool were immense. And then he took it on as a manager. And you know, like then as he finished being a manager, that's when it started to go wrong for Liverpool. And that's when we had the barren years and we could never replicate. Well, you can never replace Kenny. We tried to replace Kenny and Kenny tried to replace himself with Paul Walsh. And you've had Paul on as well, haven't you? And, you know, he got those injuries. And I love Paul Walsh. Paul Walsh was great. And he was probably the nearest player to Kenny at that time where you go, oh, we had a bit of this and a bit of trickery and stuff like that. But they never replaced them. So they end up having to find different types of players. And it took them so long to do it. Yeah.
Do you know, as we, I was just thinking there, on like a world, obviously we know, and most people in Britain know just how great Dalglish was. But I think there's a little bit of like similar to sort of George Best in the way that because he played for Scotland, and I mean, there's a few decent Scottish players back then. There was some incredible Scottish players for that, matter of fact. And then you've got like George Best was obviously from Northern Ireland. If he was, dare I say, if he was English or if he was French or whatever, and he was playing at that real top, like European, if he was playing at European Championships and World Cups, I think he would have had that more of a high regard.
Yeah, definitely. No shadow of doubt. To be fair, if he would have been playing for England, everyone would still be going, oh, he's like the world's best. You know, like the way they talk about Shearer now and people are, not at all. But like, it's like having like Ian Rush played for Wales.
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
Whereas, you know, Dalglish, at least they qualified for World Cups at the time. And he struggled when the World Cups come round. They never got out the group, Scotland. So he never got the platform because they would have 2 or 3 really, really good players, but the rest of them just were not up to the standard. So when he got to that level of game, and also he struggled with injuries around World Cup times, I think, as well. So he never got to showcase his real skills. There was one night against Holland, I think it was in Argentina, and Scotland had to win. And he turned the show on, and it was like, and they were brilliant, and he won. But other results went against him, I think. But, you know, Dalglish on the world stage, when he was playing for Scotland, outside of Hansen and Souness, it was very difficult to say, you know, there's a lot to go with it, you know. Whereas if he was playing at the time, I think Liverpool had 6 players in the England team in 78. He'd have been a world star. And, you know, so you know, any other team he would have been. But it's like Ian Rush, Ryan Giggs for Wales. You know, there's loads of people. Mo Salah even, do you know what I mean? For Egypt, with the greatest respect to their colleagues, they are poles apart and you just don't get the chance to shine. Where if you're Mbappe in that French team or Messi in that Argentina team, you've got like a real platform, haven't you?
It helps, doesn't it? Helps when you're playing with Benzema and Kante.
Yeah, and you got to remember, you know, we were fed football via highlight programs. So when we were watching World Cups, a lot of the players in World Cups were not really known to us. Yeah. You know, whereas now everybody knows everybody who plays, and you go like half the Premier League probably played in the World Cup for a variety of teams. Whereas at that time, England players played for England and Scotland players. You know, you wouldn't be seeing these. You know, it's funny because coming the Isle of Man next week is Osvaldo Ardiles is coming the Isle of Man next week doing sports. After Argentina 78, him and Ricky came and played for Tottenham. All of a sudden, a couple of Alex Sabella went to Sheffield United. All of a sudden, come that you'd seen on the telly, but they were still, English league was very much English. Your foreign players in an English league were Scottish, and you know they weren't European. And then Ipswich bought Franz Tyson and Arnold Muir brilliantly. It was a different world. So Dalglish for Liverpool was a foreign player because he was Scottish, but we had Scottish, Welsh, Irish, English in our team. We were multicultural as far as it went, sort of thing. But you look at what we've got in our team now, where everyone's from, Colombia, Uruguay, and Holland, and everything. Yeah, it was just a different world of football, and we only got to see people. So anyone abroad would only ever get to see Dalglish if he was in the European Cup, and even on TV, there wasn't a lot of coverage with.
Yeah. So if we move on then to probably one of the most underrated, I think it's one of the most underrated achievements. It's probably because we've won so many European Cups. But 86, player manager, we've just basically robbed the league off. Not robbed them off. Not about 10 points clear, weren't they? Or something.
We stalked them down.
Yeah. And then cup final day as well. I mean, for me, playing Everton and beating Everton is still the biggest game. So to have been able to have done that, to beat them to a league and a cup and win a double, I mean, tell me about it.
You could probably have you said limited to half an hour, so you've just took another 4. Because that season itself is a whole. Your biggest moment was actually the biggest Dalglish moment ever, and the most famous picture is him scoring that goal that won the league at Chelsea on the Saturday before the cup final. That's the moment. That's the Kenny Dalglish moment that I have in my head all the time. And I was behind that goal. We took about 10,000 that day to Chelsea, and we had stalked Everton down on the Tuesday night. We knew we were going to win the league. And he didn't play himself that much that season. He played, I think, 21 times or something like that. Didn't play himself that much, but when he played, he made a difference. But his legs were going. Do you know what I mean? He was getting old. I think he was 36, 37 maybe. And the goal he scored is just amazing. It's just a stunning goal. Do you know what I mean? And the rest of the game is totally forgettable. You can forget all of it. That is the moment, and that's the iconic picture of Kenny Dalglish, and that's the one everyone should see. And if anyone hasn't seen him, get on YouTube and just watch him, because you've just got to watch him. Some people going, I've seen someone on Twitter saying these people on Twitter have never seen Dalglish play. Well, get on YouTube, see him, because you see how good he was, and the finish he's got at Chelsea was superb. But then he took it into the cup final the following week. And, it's like, to beat Everton was cream. And to get a job under the circumstances he did after Heysel, to carry the club through as a statesman, as a player, and as a manager is some achievement, because we had plumbed the depths after Heysel. We were the pariahs of Europe. And under his leadership, he created something for us to be proud of again. And, not many of us were proud when we left the shores of Belgium the previous year, because he had nothing to be proud of. It was a horrendous night. And Fagan leaves in tears, and everyone goes, Dalglish is player manager. And he's the only one who could have carried it off, really, because he had the respect of the dressing room and he had the respect of the fans. And all of a sudden, you could feel that in that season. We were going to places, and the abuse was unbelievable, because they call them as murderers and all that. So the abuse was unbelievable. But what they were doing on the pitch and what they did after Christmas that year was unbelievable. And he turned the club round by brilliant leadership, and then he carried that right the way through. You're going to look at, as a man, forget him as a player, as a man, he was an unbelievable one, or he is an unbelievable man. We come to 89 and, you just see what he does for the city of Liverpool, the people of Liverpool and beyond, and the fans. And, as a person, you couldn't hold him in higher regard for how he carried that. And ultimately, he pays the price with his own health, and I was there the night before he resigned. And you could see him, he's resigned to his own fate. He can't do it anymore. What he done at Hillsborough is, forget him ever being a fantastic footballer. What a fantastic human being, and him and his family are an absolute credit, and a credit to Liverpool Football Club, the city. Do you know what I mean? And as a statesman, or as a person, you know, he's a credit to the city of Glasgow to produce such a man, really, you know. And I think that's the one thing is, I don't think he divorced the football from the person, you know, because he created something for us and he made us proud again. And then he helped carry us on that wave of emotion at his own cost, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's seen that game as well, I think it was the 4-4, wasn't it? Was it the
Yeah, it was 4-4, yeah.
That was the one but if you just, even if you're looking, like, you'll see pictures of him when it pans to him, he just looks like, he just looks so white, and he just looks like he's not even mentally there.
Yeah, see the press next day, he's actually in the press conference and he's vacant. Yeah. And understandably so, you know, you don't think he took everyone else's pain on his shoulders and tried to make it better for everyone. And, you know, a lot of the family speak so highly of him. And he made sure the players represented the club properly and supported the supporters, because he was always going, well, you know, you've given me everything. Now's my time to pay back. And if anyone's ever needs to watch a documentary on him about when, you know, like he returns to Hillsborough or goes to as close as he can do about it, you know, to talk about how he feels and what happened. And basically he needed a break, and Liverpool didn't really give him the break. They sort of had a divorce from, you know, and they got other people in where he basically said after 2 months, he said to come back, but it just didn't happen. Yeah. So, you know, and, you know, he's always loved our club, and, you know, rightly so. He has the stand named after him. You know, the Kenny, we call it Kenny. You know, us old heads will always go out to Kennan Road, but actually it's a Sir Kenneth Dalglish stand, and, you know, it's a Kenny. We upper Kenny. Are you in the upper Kenny or the lower Kenny? You know, he doesn't need a title. He's the king. You know.
I'm wondering whether that iconic celebration might become a statue soon. Who knows?
Why not? You know, unfortunately, it becomes a statue afterwards, probably. You know, go like that. But, you know, it's just like there's enough of us still around who are fortunate to see him play. There's enough of us around to understand what he did for us. And, you know, it's just like, but they're all getting older, you know. I'm not sure, is he in the 70s now, Kenny? It's like, what's he, 20, 24? He's probably around about 70, isn't he, Kenny? And, you know, it's like they're all getting so much older. But yeah, I still think of him as a 35, 36-year-old scoring a goal at Stamford Bridge, celebrating for fun in front of us, like, you know, and us all going mental. Yeah, and you just go, there can be no one, for my age group, there's no one to beat him. No one to beat him. Yeah,
well, I'm going to move it on to when he does return, because it is one of my favourite moments, probably of... like when he comes back. Obviously Hodgson has been in, and there's rumours, and everyone we're wanting Dalglish back, basically. I've just gone to Blackburn. We've just been stuffed. I'm staying on my mate's or university, and I get a phone call from another friend saying Dalglish is back. And, like, for me, I'm hearing all these stories from people like yourself, and I'm like a kid at Christmas, and I just remember being so excited. I was going to Man United away. And so the thought of seeing him, and then seeing Dalglish salute the away end with that old, like that, like, it's still one of the best moments that I've with
the classic Dalglish chance as well. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
coming out all the way end.
Amazing. But what was your thoughts when he did come back?
It was funny because my dad got interviewed on Sky Sports. It's one of my favourite clips. My dad's no longer with us. Like, you know, he passed away quite a few years ago, probably 9 years ago this year. But actually, it's a bit that rolls out. We roll out once in a while, and he gets interviewed about, what do you think about Kenny coming back? And he's going, he will get time because he's Kenny. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, and that was the thing, was we will give him time, because anyone else following Hodgson, you know, Hodgson, it was poison. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Roy Hodgson's time was poison. And, you know, some people are really vitriolic about him. It was just so poor, you know, just poor. So when Kenny come back, you go, hold on, he's still got the same players. You've got the same attitudes. It's going to take a while to turn it around. But he won a cup, didn't he? Yeah. And then he like he struggled to win that cup as well. Let's be honest, he did just about get over the line on penalty. But then he got them to the FA Cup final. Yeah. But he was still poor in the league. He was still really poor. But I thought he deserved a longer go. But the owners didn't give him a longer go, did he? He went, thanks for being a safe pair of hands. You can go now. And a lot of us weren't happy with that. A lot of us wanted Dalglish to have a longer go because you just go, it's Kenny. And then obviously they brought Brendan Rodgers in, didn't he? And then it's like, I think he returns as a non-exec director, you know, so he's around. I'm not sure if Brendan Rodgers is the type of person who'd be listening to anything Kenny says, to be honest with you. But, you know, it's like, you know, I don't want to be too disparaging about him because I don't know him, but I don't think he's the sort of go, okay. It's not like when Fergie, when it went and everyone was always going, oh, and we speak to him every day. I think Brendan was his own fella and he was always going to be his own fella. So Kenny comes back as non-exec director. And then, but a lot of us felt he got poorly treated, actually.
Yeah, it's one of them, and it's like when he came in, he did a great job of, I mean, it couldn't have been any worse, like you said. And maybe at that point they should have said, right, he's done for the 6 months, maybe we're going to get someone in. Then it was a tough one because the league was really, really poor. Just taking the Kenny thing out of it. But you know, you've got the 2 cup finals as well. But we'll move it on slightly, mate. Because like we said before we started recording, we could probably do about 6. I mean, when I messaged Keith, I said, I'm going to try 30 minutes. He said, well, I'll be speaking about him signing and that'll take me 30 minutes. But before we end, if you could give me your one moment. I mean, I know this is so hard. This is a hard one, but if there's a special moment that will be here forever, and what is that one moment?
I think it's got to be that goal at Chelsea, because, you know, obviously he scored the winning goal in the European Cup final and stuff like that, but I wasn't there. But I was right behind that goal at Chelsea. And that year, I never missed a game, home or away. I was one of the lucky ones when I got in every game, went everywhere. And we haven't even talked about the team he created with Barnes, Beard.
I
know. We haven't even talked about that. A team in his image, like, you know, like that. The football he played was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. But that moment where, just get the picture up, it's that moment he's running towards us. He is running towards us. Do you know what I mean? And like at the end, he's like, go on, I've done this for you. And there's a picture of him in the dressing room afterwards where he's got his socks rolled down and he's just like that going, look at what we just done. Do you know what I mean? We just beat Everton to the title. And yeah, it's that moment will stay with me till the day I die. You know, it's like probably one of my favourite moments in football. It's got to be. And, you know, hopefully people will go away from here and just, if they haven't seen him, go and look at him and feel the love, because, you know, me and my generation, he's the king. He's the king for a reason, you know. And sometimes you get people going, oh, yeah, King Kenny and all that. You go, if you weren't there, you don't know the half of it.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of this has come across really, because yeah, he just he made us so happy. He did that when he made the people happy. But Dalglish done the same.
It's funny because like I'm just watching you and seeing your enthusiasm talking. I mean, I've obviously seen so many videos and whatever of Dalglish and heard so many stories. Yeah. Even now, I might just gonna have to go and show my kids some clips of But I really enjoyed it, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks as always. I love talking to you, all you guys.
Yeah,
you feel like really close, you know, even though Austin's a little bit away from us. One day, I promise I'm going to get out there. I love it because everyone keeps saying they're going to buy me a pint, and I got to see Steve the other week in Liverpool as well, which was really nice.
Yeah, that's good. He'll definitely sort you out a couple of pints. I'm not sure about Darren. He still owes me a few from the weekend, to be fair.
He's informed me, mate. He's tight. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on. Next week, guys, we've got David Fairclough. And
brilliant.
He's actually going to be coming on. He's going to be speaking about Roger Hunt. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, he's going to be doing a couple of he's going to be doing an episode on Roger Hunt. So that'll be the last one.
He was my dad's hero. He was my dad's hero, Roger.
Yeah.
And my older brother, Ian's his name is Ian Roger. and it's named after Ian St. John and Roger Hunt.
Oh, quality. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
because once again, before Keegan, he was king of the cop, Roger. Like,
yeah, no. So tune in for that one, everyone. And,
I will do.
We'll see you all soon. Thanks for joining us, Keith, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, Glenn. All the best, mate. Take care of yourself.